Do not board. We told the senator's family you are in rehab. Your presence ruins the aesthetic. We gave your first-class seat to the dog. My mother's text hit my phone like a slap. I didn't even have time to blink before the second notification popped up. It was my sister Brittany, posting live from seat 1A. The seat I paid for. She was holding her French bulldog, pouting for the camera with the caption, "Finally got rid of the bad energy. Number family cleanse." I didn't cry. I didn't scream at the gate agent. I stared at the screen, and for the first time in my life, the sadness didn't come. Only calculation. They thought they were discarding me. They didn't realize they had just declared war on the wrong defense contractor. I turned around and walked away. I wasn't going to Aspen to join them. I was going to bury them. Drop a comment and let me know where you're listening from and what time it is for you right now. I'd love to know who's part of our community. I walked through the terminal, the noise of the holiday crowd fading into a dull roar behind the pounding in my ears. I am 29 years old. To my family, I am Biona, the struggling freelance IT consultant who lives in a studio apartment and drives a 5-year-old sedan. They think I scrape by. They think I need their approval to feel significant. They have no idea that last month I negotiated a $600 million cyber logistics contract for the Department of Defense. They don't know that my studio apartment is a decoy address I use for mail, while my real home is a $15 million fortress of glass and steel built into the side of a mountain in Aspen. They don't know that I could buy the airline we were supposed to fly on. I stopped at a kiosk to buy water, my hand shaking slightly as I tapped my card. Not from sadness, from the sheer, blinding clarity of it all. For years, I had been the silent architect of their comfort. I remembered the day Brittany graduated college. My mother, Constance, had pulled me aside, tears in her eyes, whispering that the $80,000 student loan debt was crushing the family. I paid it off the next morning. I didn't get a thank you. I got a text from Brittany asking if I could also cover her post-grad decompression trip to Bali. I paid for that too. Flashbacks hit me like physical blows as I walked toward the exit. The car I bought Constance when hers broke down. The deposit for the Aspen rental they were staying in right now. I had been their safety net, their bank, their fixer. I thought I was buying love. I thought if I was useful enough, they would finally keep me. But that's the trap of the utility relationship. In a toxic family, you aren't a person. You are an appliance. You are a toaster. You are a lawnmower. You are kept around exactly as long as you perform a function. And the moment they find a shiny new appliance that does the job better, like a fiancé with a senator for a father, you aren't just demoted. You are discarded. They don't put the old toaster in the guest room. They throw it in the trash. Constance didn't uninvite me because she was ashamed of me. She uninvited me because she had upgraded her supply. The senator's son offered prestige and power, things my freelance money couldn't buy in her eyes. I had served my purpose. I was the bridge they walked over to get to the good life. And now that they were there, they were burning me down. I stepped out of the sliding doors into the cold airport air. I took a deep breath, letting the freezing wind bite my face. They thought they had broken me. They thought I would go back to my fake studio apartment and cry. They forgot that my job isn't just building networks. It's dismantling threats. I pulled out my phone and looked at the banking app. My balance wasn't a number. It was a weapon. They wanted a narrative where I was the crazy, unstable failure in rehab. Fine. I would give them a story, but it wouldn't be the one they were expecting. I wasn't going to be the victim in their little Aspen fairy tale. I was going to be the director. My phone buzzed against my palm. I expected another taunt from Brittany or a demand for money from my mother. Instead, it was a priority alert from my bank. Security warning. Transaction declined. Amount $200,000. Merchant. Rolex Boutique. Aspen. Card ending in 8841. I stopped walking. The crowd flowed around me, but the world went silent. I stared at the last 4 digits. That wasn't my personal AMEX. That wasn't my business account. That was the heavy matte black titanium card I kept locked in the fireproof box in my old bedroom at my mother's house. The card issued directly by the Department of Defense for classified procurement logistics. Constance had raided my room. She must have found the box, broken the lock, and seen the black card. She didn't know what it was. To her, it just looked like a symbol of the wealth I had been hiding. She saw a limitless credit line she could use to buy a bribe for her new fancy son-in-law. She was trying to buy the senator's son a Rolex with my money to secure her place in high society. A normal daughter would panic. A normal daughter would call the bank, scream fraud, and shut it down to save her mother from prison. I hovered my thumb over the deny button. If I pressed it, the transaction would fail. Constance would be embarrassed at the register, maybe have to use her own card, but she would be safe. It would just be a family squabble. But then I remembered the text. We gave your seat to the dog. I remembered the years of being the ATM. I remembered the way she looked at me when I paid off her mortgage. Not with gratitude, but with expectation. She didn't just want my money. She felt entitled to it, and now she felt entitled to steal it. I moved my thumb. If I authorized this, it wasn't just theft. It wasn't a civil dispute I could drop later when she cried and begged. This was federal funds. This was taxpayer money allocated for cyber defense infrastructure. By using this card for personal luxury goods, Constance wasn't just stealing from me. She was embezzling from the United States government. The moment that charge went through, a flag would be raised in a server room in Virginia. An investigation would open automatically. There would be no taking it back. There would be no, it was a misunderstanding. There would only be federal agents and mandatory minimum sentencing. My mother wanted to play the big game. She wanted to exist in a world of high stakes and power. Fine. I would give her the full experience. I tapped the button marked Authorized Transaction. A second later, the confirmation flashed on the screen. Transaction approved, somewhere in Aspen. Constance was probably smiling at the sales clerk, handing over a watch she thought was a gift from her freelance daughter. She was fastening a platinum handcuff around her own wrist, and she didn't even know it. The trap wasn't just set, it was welded shut. I put the phone back in my pocket. The coldness in my chest spread, settling into a hard, diamond-like calm. I wasn't going home to cry. I had a party to plan. I didn't browse travel sites for a last-minute economy seat. I opened my encrypted contacts list and dialed a number I hadn't used since the Kabul extraction logistics project. I need the Bombardier Global 7500, I said. The moment the broker answered, tarmac 2 hours and send the fleet of black SUVs to the following 25 addresses. Constance had made a fatal error in her aesthetic purge. By uninviting everyone who didn't fit her image of high society, she had alienated the people who actually held the family together. My Aunt Sarah, who made the best potato salad but wore thrift store coats. Uncle Mike, the mechanic with grease under his nails. And Grandma Josephine, the matriarch Constance had shoved into a nursing home for her own good while claiming she was too frail to travel. I sent a single mass text to the reject list. Mom said there wasn't enough room for you in Aspen. She lied. A car is outside your house right now. Pack for snow. We aren't just going to dinner. We're taking back the holiday. I didn't have to convince them. They were hurt, angry, and confused when the fleet of Escalades deposited them at the private hangar. Confusion turned to shock. They stood on the tarmac, staring at the $75 million jet gleaming under the floodlights, clutching their Target suitcases. Fiona, Aunt Sarah whispered, walking up to me. Honey, did you win the lottery? Something like that, I said, guiding Grandma Josephine up the stairs. I work hard, Aunt Sarah, and it turns out the government pays better than Mom thinks. As we leveled out at 45,000 feet, the cabin was filled with the sound of crystal clinking and genuine laughter. A sound I hadn't heard at a family gathering in years. My cousins were eating caviar like it was popcorn. Uncle Mike was reclining in a leather seat that cost more than his truck. For the first time, they weren't the poor relations. They were the VIPs. My phone vibrated on the armrest. It was Constance, Venmo, VENMO. Me $5,000 immediately. The rental requires a larger security deposit than I thought. And Brittany wants to book a spa day for the senator's wife. Don't ignore me, Biona. You owe us for raising you. I looked at the message. Then I looked out the window at the curvature of the earth. She was down there scrambling for petty cash to impress people who didn't care about her, demanding money from the daughter she had banned from the trip. She thought she was squeezing me for a few more drops of utility. She had no idea she was texting a woman cruising at Mach .9 in a flying palace. I didn't reply. I didn't send the money. I swiped the notification away and picked up my glass of vintage Dom Perignon, DOM, PERIGNON. To family, I said, raising my glass to the room. To family, they roared back. Below us, the snowy peaks of Colorado were getting closer. Constance was busy staging her perfect little life in a rental house she couldn't afford. She didn't know that the landlord was coming home, and I wasn't knocking on the door. I was bringing the mountain down on top of her. The SUVs climbed the private access road, tires crunching on heated pavement that melted the snow instantly. We rounded the final bend, and the trees cleared to reveal it. My home, a cantilevered structure of steel and floor-to-ceiling glass hanging over the edge of the mountain, glowing like a lantern in the blue twilight. Who lives here? Uncle Mike asked, pressing his face to the window. I do, I said. Silence filled the car. It wasn't just a house. It was a statement. It was a $15 million middle finger to every time my mother had called me unambitious. Inside, the staff I'd hired at triple their holiday rate had the fire roaring. I led Grandma Josephine to the head of the table, seating her in a velvet chair that looked like a throne. You sit here, Grandma. No kids' table tonight. She looked at the crystal glasses, the centerpieces of white orchids, and then at me. Her eyes were wet. Biona, sweetheart, I don't understand. Your mother said you were struggling. Mom says a lot of things, I replied, pouring her a glass of sparkling cider. Tonight, we look at the truth. Dinner was a symphony of excess. Truffle risotto, wagyu, wagyu, beef, wines older than my cousins. For the first time in my life, I watched my family eat without calculating the cost of every bite. They weren't stressed. They weren't fighting. They were happy. But the main course wasn't the food. It was the view. Everyone, if you could look out the north window, I announced, tapping my glass. The automated blinds rose silently. Below us, about 300 yards down the slope, sat a modest luxury rental. It looked small and dark from this height. Through the windows, I could see tiny figures moving around a cramped dining table. Constance, Brittany, the senator's son. Is that your mom? Aunt Sarah asked, squinting. It is, I said, and she can see us too. I pressed a button on a remote. Outside on the terrace, a mechanism whirred to life. A 40-foot modular LED wall, the kind used for stadium concerts, blazed into existence. It wasn't facing us. It was facing them. And it was projecting a live 4K feed of our dinner table. Down in the valley, the snowbank next to Constance's rental was suddenly illuminated by a 40-foot image of Grandma Josephine laughing and eating caviar. It lit up their dining room like an alien abduction. My phone rang instantly. Constance. I put it on speaker and set it in the center of the table. What is happening? Constance shrieked. There is a giant picture of your grandmother on the snow. Is that you? Are you here? I'm right above you, Mom, I said, my voice calm and amplified by the silence of the room. Look up. I saw the tiny figure in the window down below crane her neck. I raised my glass to the window. On the giant screen outside, a 40-foot version of me raised a 40-foot glass. "Turn it off," she screamed. "The senator's son is asking what's going on. You're humiliating us." "Am I?" I asked. "I thought I was just in rehab. Crazy people do crazy things, right?" "Biona, I am warning you. Enjoy your turkey, Mom?" I cut her off, my tone flat and lethal. "It looks dry from up here." I hung up. Down below, I saw the tiny figure throw her phone. Up here, the room erupted in cheers. Aunt Sarah was laughing so hard she was crying. Uncle Mike was high-fiving a waiter. For a moment it felt like victory, but I watched the dark figure of my mother pacing in the window below. She wasn't defeated. She was regrouping. I knew Constance. She didn't retreat. She escalated, and I knew exactly what she would do next. The celebration lasted exactly 12 minutes. One moment, my cousins were toasting to the good life. The next, the room was washed in a strobe of red and white light. Sirens cut through the music, loud and distorted, echoing off the glass walls of my living room. "Police," Uncle Mike asked, standing up. "Did the neighbors call a noise complaint?" "No," I said, watching the vehicle tear up my heated driveway. It wasn't a police cruiser. It was a private ambulance. The front doors burst open before I could even move. Constance didn't walk in. She rushed in, her face a mask of sheer terrified panic. Behind her was Dr. Aris, Aerys, a family friend who had lost his license to prescribe opioids years ago, but still carried a clipboard like a shield. Two burly men in scrubs followed, carrying a restraint chair. "Oh, thank God," Constance cried out, rushing toward me with her arms outstretched. "We made it in time, Biona. Honey, it's okay. Mommy is here." The room went dead silent. My family looked from me to her, confused. "Get away from me," I said, stepping back. "She's spiraling," Constance sobbed, turning to my Aunt Sarah. "She stopped taking her meds weeks ago. The rehab facility called me. They said she's having a complete psychotic break. She thinks she owns this house. She thinks she has money. This is the masterclass of the DARVO. DARVO. Defense, deny, attack, reverse, victim, and offender." In seconds, Constance had rewritten reality. She wasn't the abuser who had stolen from me. She was the heroic mother trying to save her delusional daughter. She denied her cruelty by acting out of love. She attacked my credibility by labeling me insane. And she reversed the roles. I was the danger and she was the victim. "I do own this house," I said, my voice steady, though my heart hammered against my ribs. "See," Constance whispered to Dr. Aris, pointing a shaking finger at me. "Delusions of grandeur." She's a freelance IT worker, doctor. She makes $40,000 a year. How could she own a $15 million estate? She broke in. She's squatting here. The room went still. My cousins stared at the marble floor, unable to believe that I, the girl who fixed routers, was really in control. Dr. Aris stepped forward with a form. "Biona, I'm placing you on an M1 psychiatric hold, 72 hours secure facility." Grandma protested, but my mother Constance pounced, accusing me of kidnapping, manic behavior, and signaling the orderlies to restrain me. They pinned my arms and buckled me into the chair. Constance stroked my cheek, whispering she would handle the house, the cards, the accounts while I was locked away. That was her plan: get me committed, seize guardianship, drain everything I owned. Then blue police lights flashed outside. Constance smiled until the officers asked, "Are you Constance Taylor?" They weren't there for a mental crisis. They were responding to a Department of Defense fraud alert. I held up my phone, showing the government seal. "That credit card you used wasn't mine. It was a federal procurement card. You stole $200,000 from the United States." The orderlies dropped me instantly. Constance demanded I fix it. But federal theft isn't personal once flagged. Prosecution is automatic. The victim isn't me. It's the government. The officer cuffed her. Constance Taylor. You're under arrest for wire fraud and embezzlement. Dr. Eris was detained for questioning. The police let her out sobbing, begging for someone important to rescue her. No one would. Silence fell. My cousins watched the hierarchy collapse in real time. Brittany checked her phone. Her senator boyfriend blocked her. You ruined my life, she sobbed. No, I said. I stopped funding it. I told her she could stay in the rental until 10 a.m. I own that one too. Outside, Grandma joined me as snow fell over the empty driveway. She'll never forgive you, she said. I know, I answered. That's the point. Grandma smiled. I'm glad you finally bit back. She would have devoured you. For years, I thought peace meant tolerating abuse. Now I understood. Peace requires boundaries, teeth, and proof. Inside, the house felt clean again. The wind tasted like freedom.